Hey everyone, so I've been asked to do an in the bag video for a while now, and I'm off tour, and so I thought I'd give it a shot. I don't know if it's normal to do things inside or not. I've never watched an in the bag video before. I thought it would be more fun to kind of do it off the cuff and not just copy what everybody else was doing, so I didn't want to see what anybody else was doing. So we'll see how that goes. The other thing that's going to be kind of different about this video, I believe, is that I'm not being paid for any of these opinions. When it came back to disc, I decided I was not going to limit myself to just throwing for one company. I mean, everybody's out there making good discs, but I thought it'd be kind of silly to think that one company has the best answer to every single problem. If you're not being paid by a company, well, why limit yourself to just one company, right? I mean, one company might make the best mid-range, another company may make the best roller disc, right? So I decided not to limit myself to that. And so all these opinions are completely honest. I mean, this is what I believe. Now, the reason I decided to do it now more than anything is, you know, timing is everything. And right now, I think I'm coming off a couple good performances where what's in my bag is a little more relevant. The last Masters Division tournament I played, I'm 46 years old now, was an A tier that I won by 20 strokes. And the last Open Division tournament I played was an A tier, and I won that one by 12 strokes. And actually, I think I'm currently on 7 wins in a row in the Open Division or something like that. Most of them smaller tournaments, but the A tier was pretty neat. So I think I got a little bit of cred right now. It's a little street cred in disc golf as far as what I'm throwing, because if someone at my advanced age can be winning Open tournaments, then the disc's probably got something to do with it. So I'm going to just start. So basically, I have a philosophy with drivers, and that is I do not require my discs to do everything for me. I don't believe that you want to pull every disc across your chest flat and then get one that goes left, one that goes right, one that goes far, one that goes short. I think you want to be able to control and manipulate the flight of the disc itself. However, you also want to take advantage of discs that have characteristics that do what you want as well. So for example, having one long-range driver that flies straight and completely controlling that is a little bit limiting. You're not taking advantage of what discs do. But having, say, 50 drivers that all have slight variations in them would be a little bit overboard, right? You don't need, you can actually do more. You don't have to count on the disc to do every little nuance. So for me, it's 4 discs, 4 drivers, long-range drivers, and that's all I throw. So I throw the phase. This is from MVP as my super overstable disc. The phase does not fly far at all. It's really overstable. It's a meat hook, but it is a very sharp left turn disc. By the way, I'll talk about everything right hand and backhand. So it's a sharp left turn disc. If I don't want it to turn as sharp as the overstable, I throw the Photon, also from MVP, and it is it's a pretty overstable disc at slower speeds, but when you're throwing at high speeds, it's more slightly overstable. It's not a super overstable disc, but it comes back hard at the end. If I want something that's going to fly generally straight, I throw the Insanity. And that is, well, basically it's not as overstable as the Photon, right? It's just basically, it's incremental. Super overstable, slightly overstable, straight flying. And then turnover, I throw the Wave. Now, to me, that's all I need as far as drivers. I control everything else based on the angle of the disc. I'll do subtle things as far as sometimes I'll throw it with more or less spin, or with the nose up or nose down. But generally, it's controlled by the angle of the disc. And the angle of the disc is, along with these 4 drivers, is basically all I need. I mean, that's all I found. Now, I do have a Crave, which I'm starting to play around with. It's more of a fairway driver. It's a little bit slower, should be in theory easier to control. I'm a big fan of high-speed discs, even on shorter shots. That's just it's personal taste. I don't have a problem throwing those discs or controlling the power and distance on them. I can throw the Photon to within a few feet of, say, a 300-foot hole. I can plus or minus 5 or 7 feet if it was wide open. So I got it pretty dialed in, so I'm not really concerned with the control as much. So, but I am experimenting with the Crave, which is a pretty straight flying disc. So far I like it, but it's new. Mid-range shots, I throw 1 disc. I throw the Theory. The Theory is a mid-range disc. It's slightly understable, which means it's not perfect for everything. I'm kind of seeking out a mid-range disc that's slightly overstable. I'm going to try an MVP disc, but I also know the Buzz is good. Obviously, the Rock is the classic and the standard. I mean, like I said, everybody makes good discs, so I'm gonna experiment. All these discs, because they're MVPs, I've fallen into them because I felt that they were better than the ones I was throwing. It wasn't because they're MVP. The MVP doesn't pay me a dime. I've tried different discs. These I've found to work the best. I throw a really beat up Jack the Ripper from Fly High Discs, my company. This is a plastic, more like a DX type of plastic. It beats up, it gets welds, it gets folds into flight plate bands, and it gets really flippy. Now, you don't want to limit yourself to one roller disc any more than you'd have one hyzer disc, right? Generally speaking, discs roll, for the most part, the way they fly through the air if you just flip the universe 90 degrees. An understable disc will hit the ground, will turn a lot more on the ground when it rolls. A stable disc will tend to roll straight. So you don't want to limit yourself to that. But all things being equal on an open field, I'm going to be throwing the beat up Jack the Ripper as my roller disc. With other discs on situations, but this is the most common one. Thumber disc, I am completely convinced that the Nuke OS is the best thumber disc I've ever thrown. Now I will, sidebar, I throw thumbers, again, all things being equal on an open field. If I was throwing upside down, I'm going to throw a thumber, which flies like this. But you also want to throw a tomahawk, or a two-finger, whatever you want to call it. Different names in different parts of the country, but you want to throw that because it flies like this as well. Throwing one, having one and not the other is just as silly as only throwing hyzer and not having a sidearm or an anhyzer throw. I mean, it's limiting. There are shots that are thumber shots, there are shots that are tomahawk shots, and if you can do this motion, then you can throw both. So don't limit yourself to that. But the key to the thumber disc, or an upside down disc, is you want it to turn slowly from this point here to this point here, and even past it some. A disc, the faster it turns, the quicker it goes here. There's nothing holding the disc up in the air. Boom, right down to the ground. You lose your distance. The way to get a disc to fly at maximum distance is you want something to turn slowly. Now, initially, I was throwing the Firebird from Innova, which I think is a great thumber disc. A lot of people swear by it. But when I started throwing the Nuke OS, I personally found it better. If I thought it flew farther than the Firebird. Again, I'll never knock another company, but I thought this one was the best. In case you're wondering, since I throw a lot of MVP, I haven't thrown an MVP disc upside down that flies as well as a thumber, as well as the Nuke OS. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but as of right now, this is my thumber disc and I love it. I've been putting all winter with AK-47s. AK-47s, by the way, I always carry 2 in my bag, and I like to putt holding a putter in my hand. In fact, the reason I do that is because I practice putting with 5 putters, which means 80% of my practice putts, I have something in my left hand when I'm putting. Only on the 5th putt do I putt with just the disc. So, in order to replicate what I do in practice, I like to hold another disc in my hand. So, I always carry 2. AK-47 is basically a wizard, made by Gateway. Gateway makes great discs. I don't know why they get a bad rap. I won a bunch of tournaments with Gateway discs. A guy by the name of Johnny McRae won a bunch. I mean, come on, Johnny McRae is sick. He's a Hall of Famer. He has been through years with Gateway discs. So I love Gateway. And they make the AK-47s for us, and I think they're awesome. I've been putting great with them. Now, I'm going to be experimenting this winter with the Atom, just because I'm not Paul Macbeth, to put it simply. There is a ceiling that is above me. Okay, Paul's up here, the rest of the universe is down here, and I'm down here somewhere. So because I know that there's a higher ceiling to get to, I'm not going to limit myself and say I found all the answers yet. So it's possible the Atom will make me a better putter. It's possible that it won't make me a better putter, and I'll be playing AK-47s or Wizards the rest of my life. I don't know, but I will be experimenting with these. But I didn't win any tournaments with the Atom as a putter. I've not used it competitively. I've been using the AK-47 now. So, I posted asking people if they had any questions or anything they wanted me to cover, and I got a bunch of responses. So I don't know if this is normal for it in the bag, but I'm going to add to it. So a bunch of people asked me what other stuff I keep in my bag. So first and foremost, food and drinks. Okay. So I did a video earlier and the phone rang and I had to start over. So I don't know if I've covered this. I use Heiser Bomb bags. Heiser Bomb has been I think they're phenomenal. I don't know if they're better or worse than other companies. I haven't used every other bag out there, but it's perfect for me. Kristen caddies for me. It's comfortable for her. She doesn't get backaches. This don't get wet. It has a rain guard. It has all the pockets. I mean, that's the big thing for me with the bags. It has to have a lot of pockets. Because I can store different things in them. First and foremost, food and drink. At tournaments, it's very important that you keep your blood sugar up and that you don't get dehydrated. And the way you do that is not by drinking a whole lot at once, at least in my experience. You don't drink a whole lot at once, and it's not about eating a big meal before. In fact, a big meal before could actually make you lethargic during the round as your metabolism is being used to digest the food. You don't want to do that. What I try to do, and it helps having a caddy to remind you, but about every 3 holes I take a few bites of something and I'll take a drink of something. Now, I am personally of the opinion that it's not as important what you eat or what you drink. There's water in everything you drink. There's water. You're going to get hydrated. The purists say you have to drink pure water and you can only drink these, balanced, protein bars or whatever. I maybe that's true. I haven't had that experience. But not eating is bad, especially in a 4-hour round. So eating something is what matters. I keep my blood sugar up, a few bites, and I keep my hydration up. I also try to always be prepared with pencils and anything else I'm going to need. I just, part of being professional is being prepared. You don't want to be on the course not having something. By the way, sidetrack. Along being prepared, this is generally what I carry. Well, say minus these. This is what I've had. These are all the discs I use, right? Not that many. But depending on the course, I bring backups. So I will bring additional discs in my bag, but all they are is backups for these. Because, if you lose a disc, if there's water, if the course has water on it, especially if there's a hole I know I may be throwing in the water, it's good to have backups. So, but these are the only ones I throw. So, as far as marker, I have no idea what marker disc this is. I use a different marker disc every single time, pretty much. This is the BCDGA from Tyler State Park. Okay, so this is from the last tournament I played up in at Tyler State Park at the Eric Theater. I don't care about that. People asked about lucky, anything I carried for luck. I don't believe in luck. I believe in probabilities. I don't think that luck I think luck is an illusion based on probabilities and perception and selective memory and things like that. In fact, I will purposely not repeat the same things that I'm successful with because I don't want to have something in my head. I don't want to all of a sudden realize the last 5 tournaments I won, I wore the same pair of socks. These are lucky socks. And then all of a sudden I can't find my lucky socks and now it's in my head. I don't want that type of thing. So I will purposely not do things. If I start to think that way, I'll purposely break it on purpose. If I start to think these putters are lucky, I literally won't putt with these putters at the next tournament because I don't want that in my head. Players are like, oh my God, I lost my putter. And there's a million putters identical out there, but in their mind, they've already lost. So I don't do that. Real common question, what's my sidearm disc? That is the exact same question as saying, what is your backhand disc? You don't have a backhand disc because there's this wide variety of holes out there that you want to throw. Well, by the same token, you don't, and you shouldn't have a sidearm disc. Every disc in my bag, I throw backhand and sidearm. Jeremy Colling especially taught me to bring the mid-range discs into my sidearm game more. If you've seen him throw a mid-range disc sidearm, it's the sickest I've ever seen. And he's got me even doing that. Putters, I throw sidearm. So every disc in your bag, I mean, if you have a shot that the phase works for backhand, if you walked up to the next hole and it's a mirror image of that hole, it's pretty much a phase shot. And it's not always the case because you might be able to put less spin on the disc sidearm or less power, but basically it's the same thing. The difference between MVP and other discs, like why I've gravitated towards it. Well, it's because of the overmolding. The overmolding of MVP discs makes them different. I've said before that overmolding does not automatically make them better. It just makes them different. The overmolding can make them better, it can have little change, or it can make them worse. And more than that, it's subjective, right? What works best for one person doesn't work for another. Having said that, I have found that this particular technology does make them better. I really truly believe this. The overmolding is something that makes them fly more consistent because it distributes more weight to the outside. I find that they have a more consistent flight for me, which leads to the next question about weight. Now, I have always said that I always threw max weight discs when I was touring before, and that was because I would choose to be consistent rather than that little bit of extra distance. I mean, if I'm 30 feet farther but off in the woods, that's not an advantage. It's better to be 30 feet shorter and out in the fairway. The example I used to always give is if I threw 5 max weight XLs when I was throwing discraft and 5 XLs that are 15 grams lighter, if you added the distances of the 5 max weight XLs, that would be a longer distance than the distance of the 5 lighter XLs, because the consistency was better for me with the heavier discs. I would be more consistent. However, of those 10 shots, the longest of the 10 throws would always be one of the lighter discs. They do fly farther. There's no question that discs below max weight fly farther for everybody. So that was always the trade-off. I always chose to be in the fairway. And, because lighter discs were less consistent for me. But, and this is where I'm really excited, I've been experimenting recently with lighter discs from MVP, and I've discovered something really, really neat. Because, again, of the weight distribution on the outside, these discs, the MVP discs, are completely consistent at lighter weights. They fly basically identical at 160 grams as they do at 173 grams. In my experience, not identical, but pretty darn close. So say this, the gap between them and other companies' discs at a 15 gram weight difference is noticeable. They fly closer to the same than the other companies do. This is super exciting because I no longer throw as far as everybody else. It was really easy to say, oh, who cares about 30 feet when I'm still 75 feet in front of everybody. Not the case anymore. Now I'm trailing on the lead card at an open division tournament. I'm the weakest thrower on the group sometimes. So that extra distance is going to make all the difference. So I'm experimenting, but I believe I can start dropping to lighter weights with MVP discs, and I can still get the distance with them. I truly believe this can happen. So an extra 40 or 50 feet of distance because I'm throwing 160 gram discs is going to be huge when competing at major tournaments against the top players. Question about grippiness. I have not found MVP discs to be the most grippable discs out there. I think their grippiness is good, but I give them a B+ in that area, right? I mean, this is compared to some of the stuff I love, like for instance, G-Star plastic from Innova. That is a plastic that I just think is great. I haven't found anything that I have personally found to be as good as far as grippiness. But what I do is this. That's all I do. A little bit of moisture on the fingers, and then I grip just fine. So grip's not an issue, but it just takes that little bit of extra work. If my hands are hot and sweaty, I just rub them in dirt. No problems there. Colors, I've not noticed any difference in colors of discs. I know that different plastics can make the flights different. I haven't experimented enough to tell with the MVP discs anyways. Practicing on the field. Someone asked me about that. I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm not the biggest fan of practicing on the field. To me, practicing on the field, it's kind of like when someone wants to lose weight, and so I'm going to lose weight, so they go out and they start jogging every night after work, which would be extremely effective if not for the fact that after 3 days they're completely bored, and instead of switching to another exercise, they just give up exercising completely because jogging sucks. Sorry to you 1%ers out there that like to jog, but I think jogging sucks. I hate it. It's boring. Well, field training to me is kind of the same way. If you go out in a field, it's incredibly boring. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it once in a while, but it's boring. Going out to a course and unloading your bag in every hole, or making up safari holes, making up shots in the woods, but throwing lots of extra shots, I think is far more effective than going out to the field. Going on the field helps because you can focus just on technique and not have to worry about anything else. But I very much limit myself to that. Field play, again, even if it was helpful, if it's boring, you're not gonna stick with it. So if you're not gonna stick with it, it's not doing you any good. Do something that's fun. If it's fun, just like exercise, if it's fun, you'll stick with it. Altitude, yeah, altitude affects the flights of disc, no question. Everything is more stable. When I lived in Colorado, and I still basically do, I'll be back there someday probably. when I went down to sea level, all I did was I just forgot what all my discs did, and I just started from scratch. I went out and threw them and said, okay, here's how this one flies. I just had to completely go into it with an open mind, as if these were all brand new discs. Because if I expected them to do one thing, they wouldn't, and if I tried to predict how the altitude would affect them, it never came out the way I wanted. So I just had to actually go with a clean slate, start from scratch. Throwing in the wind, God, I'm going to sound like I'm a commercial. I'm not being paid to say this, but again, I think the technology from MVP makes a more consistent wind disc. When I throw an MVP disc into the wind, it does not fly as far, but it does not flip up and turn over the way other discs do. I think they're superior in this way. This is totally honest, but when I throw MVP discs into the wind, I don't even question whether it's going to flip up and just take off on me. It never happens. They fly just pretty close anyways to the same into the wind, just not as far. So that's actually perfect. I think that's most of it. I'm not going to demonstrate any throws because no matter what disc I throw in my bag, the throw is going to look pretty identical. If it's a drive, it doesn't matter what I'm throwing, it's a drive. What else? I think that's it. So that's it. I'm gonna call it there. I'm going to put my MVP disc back in the bag. I'm actually going to go out and play today. I was going to make a joke about how the wave turns into a particle when you observe it in flight, but that was a little bit too nerdy. So I won't make that joke as I suddenly make that joke because I think it's funny. But other than that, that's my in the bag video. I don't know if this is any good or not. I have no idea. But like most of my videos, I have no idea. I just make them and put them out there. And if people like it, cool. If they don't, cool. It's up to you guys. But that's what I throw. That's my philosophy on throwing as it relates to this. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to go click off. Thanks, guys.